You think this is the first time we've met, but I've been loving you for 300 years across 17 different bodies. And tonight, I need you to understand why I can never let you go. I know how this sounds. It's crazy, obsessive, impossible. But look at my hands as I tell you this story. Really, look at them. These aren't the hands I was born with. This isn't even the face you fell in love with 6 months ago. I wear bodies like clothes, discarding them when they're no longer useful, when they can no longer get me close to you. The first time I saw you was in 1724 in a London coffee house. You were wearing a blue dress with ivory buttons, reading a letter that made you smile. Your name was Elizabeth then, and I was Thomas, a merchant's son with ink-stained fingers and an unremarkable face that no one remembered after. I left the room, but I remembered everything about you. The way you tucked a loose strand of hair behind your ear when you concentrated. The soft laugh you made when something amused you. The particular shade of brown in your eyes that looked gold in candlelight. I felt so completely, so devastatingly in love that I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think of anything but finding ways to be near you. You barely noticed me. Why would you? Thomas was nobody special, just another face in the crowd of men who came and went from your father's shop. But I made myself useful. I brought you books I thought you'd enjoy, helped carry heavy packages, found excuses to linger near your counter. You were kind to me, the way you were kind to everyone, but there was no spark in your eyes when you looked at me. That's when I discovered what I could do. It happened by accident, really. I was walking home one night, consumed by thoughts of you, when I passed an alley where a man was dying. He had been robbed, beaten, left to bleed out on the cobblestones. As I knelt beside him, trying to help, something shifted. I felt my soul, my essence, whatever makes me who I am, slip out of Thomas's body and into his. When I opened my eyes, I was looking out through the dying man's face. But he wasn't dying any, while Thomas was. My original body lay empty beside me, life fading from those unremarkable features, while I lived on in a stronger, more handsome form. His name had been William, and William was everything Thomas was not. Tall, striking, with the kind of confident smile that made women take notice. When I walked into your father's shop the next day, you looked at me differently. There was interest in your eyes, curiosity, attraction, that you asked what had happened to Thomas, where the young merchant's son had gone. I told you he had left London suddenly, family business. You nodded absently, already focused on the handsome stranger who seemed to know exactly how you liked your tea and which books made you laugh. We were married 6 months later, but here's the thing about it. Stolen by these, they don't last forever. This one had been damaged by the beating, and despite my soul keeping it alive, it was slowly failing. After 2 years of marriage, 2 years of the happiest life I'd ever known, I could feel William's body dying around me. I couldn't lose you. I wouldn't. The night before William's body finally gave out, I found another host, a young doctor making his rounds through London's poorest districts. Dr. James Morrison, recently returned from studying in Edinburgh, unmarried, with skilled hands and an intelligent face that I knew you would find appealing. I left William's body as it slept beside you and slipped into James when you woke to find your husband dead in bed beside you. I was there as a concerned doctor who had been called to examine the body. I comforted you in your grief, helped you through the funeral arrangements, and slowly, carefully, courted you again. You mourned William for exactly 18 months. Then you married Dr. Morrison, never knowing you were marrying the same soul that had already loved you in 2 different bodies. This pattern has repeated for 3 centuries. When James grew old, became Robert, a young who swept the widow, Mrs. Morrison, off her feet. When Robert died in what appeared to be a riding accident, I was already living as Charles, a wealthy merchant who courted you with expensive gifts and poetry. After Charles, I was Henry, then Edward, then a dozen other names across a dozen other lifetimes. I've been your husband 17 times. I've been your lover, your friend, your protector, your obsession. I have followed you through the Industrial Revolution, through 2 world wars, through the invention of electricity and automobiles and the internet. Every time you deign, you always die, leaving me alone in whatever body I'm wearing. I wait for you to be reborn, and then I find you again. You're always you. It's different names, different faces, different circumstances, but always essentially you. That laugh, those eyes, that way of tilting your head when you're thinking. Your souls recognize each other, even when your minds don't, which is why you always fall for me, eventually, no matter what body I'm wearing. But it's getting harder. In the early days, people didn't question sudden deaths or mysterious disappearances. Plague, accidents, violence, death was everywhere. And no one looked too closely when a healthy man suddenly dropped dead so a grieving widow could find love again. Bodies were easier to acquire, easier to inhabit, easier to dispose of when they were no longer useful. Modern medicine makes things complicated. Autopsies, investigations, paper trails that follow people from birth to death. I have to be more careful now, more strategic. I can't just take anybody that appeals to me. I need to find people who won't be missed, whose deaths won't raise questions, whose lives I can slip into seamlessly, like Marcus. Marcus was perfect for my purposes. Isolated, estranged from his family, working a job that kept him away from meaningful relationships. When I found him 3 years ago, overdosing in a motel room outside Denver, he was exactly what I needed. Young enough to be attractive, stable enough to build a life with, damaged enough that no one would look too closely at slight changes in his personality. I've been wearing Marcus ever since, and through him, I found you again. This time, your name is Sarah, and you work at that little bookstore downtown. The first time I walked in, you were reorganizing the poetry section, and you looked up at me with those same eyes that had been haunting me for 300 years. You didn't recognize me. Of course, you never do. Not consciously, but your soul knew mine, and within minutes, we were talking like old friends. 6 months later, you moved in with me. Hey, you think we're building something new together, but I'm just continuing a love story that began before your grandparents were born. But here's what's different this time. You're starting to remember little things at first. Dreams about people and places you've never seen. Moments of déjà vu so strong, they leave you dizzy. Sometimes you look at me, and I can see recognition flickering behind your eyes, like you're trying to remember where you've seen me before. Last week, you found that old photograph in the antique shop. It's a wedding portrait from 1847, where you were my bride for the 7th time. You stared at it for 20 minutes, your hand shaking, insisting the woman in the picture looked exactly like you. Because it was you, your soul is growing stronger, more aware with each reincarnation. The barriers between your lifetimes are beginning to thin, and soon you'll remember everything. All 17 marriages, all 17 deaths, all 17 times I've stolen you from the natural order of things to keep you with me. You'll remember the first time you realized what I was doing. It was 1892, and you were Victoria then, married to the body I called Jonathan. You had started having dreams about your previous lives, fragments of memory that didn't make sense until the night you woke up and saw me transferring from Jonathan's dying body into the young man I had prepared as his replacement, you screamed. You called me a demon, a monster, an abomination. You begged me to let you go, to let you die naturally and move on to whatever comes after life. You said my love was a prison, that I was trapping your soul in an endless cycle of captivity. But I couldn't let you go then, and I can't let you go now. You don't understand what it's like to love someone the way I love you. Every breath you take is precious to me. Every smile, every laugh, every moment of happiness justifies everything I've done to keep you. When you die, the world becomes a cold, empty place that I can barely stand to exist in. The only thing that keeps me going is knowing I'll find you again. I know you think this is wrong. I can see it in your eyes sometimes. That flicker of fear when I look at you too intensely. When I know things about you that I shouldn't know. When I love you with a desperation that feels larger than the 6 months we've supposedly known each other. But consider this. In 300 years, across 17 lifetimes, you have never been happier than when you're with me. Whatever body I'm wearing, whatever name I'm using, I make you laugh. I make you feel safe. I love you with a completeness that no ordinary person could ever match, because I've had centuries to learn exactly how to make you happy. Every morning, you wake up in my arms and smile before you even open your eyes. Every night, you fall asleep, trusting me to protect you. In between, we have the kind of love that people write poetry about, the kind of connection that others spend their whole lives searching for and never find. Isn't that worth something? Isn't that worth the moral compromises I've made to preserve? Yet, the body I'm wearing now is dying. Marcus wasn't as healthy as he appeared, and 3 years of my soul burning through his nervous system has accelerated the damage. I have maybe 6 months before this form is no longer sustainable. I've already chosen my next host. There's a young man named David who works at the coffee shop you like. Handsome, kind, exactly your type. He's been flirting with you for weeks, and I can see the way you smile when he makes you drinks. He's lonely, isolated, struggling with depression that makes him reckless with his own safety. It would be easy to arrange an accident, to be there in his moment of need, to slip from Marcus into David and begin courting you all over again. But this time, I want you to know. I want you to understand what I've done, what I continue to do, why I can never let you go. I want you to make the choice consciously, instead of just following the pull of our connected souls. You can try to run. Of course, you've done it before, in lifetimes when you remember too much too quickly. But I always find you. There's nowhere you can go that I won't follow. No life you can build that I won't infiltrate. No love you can find with someone else that I won't destroy. Because here's the truth that you need to accept. We belong together, not just in this lifetime, but in all lifetimes, forever. Your soul calls to mine across centuries, across death itself. Every time you're reborn, you seek me out without knowing why. Every time I appear in a new body, you fall in love with me again. This is an obsession. This is destiny. So, when Marcus dies in a few months, when David suddenly becomes interested in you, when a new man enters your life with mysterious knowledge of exactly how you like your coffee and which books make you cry, remember this conversation. Remember that you're being loved by someone who has reorganized the fundamental laws of existence to be with you. And maybe, this time, you'll stop running and let yourself love me back with the same intensity. Maybe this time, you'll help me find the next body instead of mourning the loss of the previous one. Maybe this time, we can finally stop pretending that this is anything other than what it is. A love story that transcends death, morality, and time itself. The choice is yours. Sarah, it always has been. But choose quickly, because eternity is a long time, and I'm tired of